Hey everyone, today's lesson is on the second derivative. The second derivative is the derivative of the derivative. Basically, it's the slope of the slope. In order to do the second derivative, I need to take the first derivative. If you're really good at taking the first derivative, the second derivative should be no trouble for you at all. If, however, you're struggling with the first derivative, the second derivative will prove to be challenging for you because you can't pass stage 1. You've got to pass stage 1, aka the first derivative, to get to stage 2, aka the second derivative. If my function is f of x, the first derivative is f prime of x, the second derivative is f double prime of x. If it's also the same for y, y primed, and y double primed. Another way to say y double primed is d squared y over dx squared. So those are common notations. Okay, so this note shouldn't take very long, so give it a try, everybody. For the first question, take the derivative. So f prime of x is 3x squared minus 12. The second derivative is 6x. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So if I can take the first derivative, I should be able to take the second derivative. Try the next 3 examples and see how they go for you. So f prime of x is 12x cubed plus 6x squared minus 4. F double prime of x is 36x squared plus 12x. Change the form of this one, which is minus 7x squared. That makes f prime of x minus 14x, and f double prime of x minus 14. Pretty simple. For question number 4, hopefully you've noticed that this is a chain rule question. So f prime of x is bring down the exponent, bracket to the new exponent, times the derivative inside bracket. So I'm here. Collect like terms to make things a little bit easier for yourself, and then take the second derivative. So the minus 6 stays out front, bring down the exponent, bracket to the new exponent, times the derivative of the inside bracket. When I collect terms, I get to here. This is an acceptable answer. If you'd like to expand, this answer is also acceptable. Okay, try question number 5 and 6 on your own first. Make sure you rearrange so that they are, you're able to manipulate them. So this one here is this. Now take the derivative. So that's 3x squared plus 3x to the minus 2. The second derivative is 6x minus 6x to the minus 3. Rearrange the form. Here. Notice that between the first derivative and the second derivative, I don't rearrange the form because then I'm going to have to go backwards anyway in order to take the derivative. So just leave it as it is as you're going through with the question. This one here is 2 minus x to the minus 1. This is another chain rule question. So take the first derivative, bring down the exponent, bracket to the new exponent, times the derivative of the inside bracket. Be really careful here that, remember, you're subtracting one always from the exponent. This becomes 2 minus x to the minus 2. The second derivative, again, is a chain rule question. Bring down the exponent, bracket to the new exponent, times the derivative of the inside bracket. Rearrange, and you're done. Last question of the day. Change the form, so you get 4 minus x squared to the half. You'll notice that in order to take the first derivative, I'm going to need the chain rule. First derivative is bring down the exponent, bracket to the new exponent, times the derivative of the inside bracket. Collect terms, so I get minus x and 4 minus x squared all to the minus a half. In order to take the second derivative, hopefully just looking at it right now, you realize that here's one term and here's another term. They're multiplied together, so I'm going to be using the product rule. If for whatever reason you've changed the form and you see this instead, you're going to be using the quotient rule. Either way, To get the second derivative from the first derivative, I have to change the rule that I'm using. I'm not just using the chain rule. I am either using the product rule or the quotient rule. I have no preference as to which one you use. I'm going to be using the product rule because I find that a lot easier. So on the left-hand side over here, I'm going to make my table. So in making my table on the left-hand side, hopefully you've done the same, I can now take the second derivative. So that's negative x times 4 minus x squared to the minus 3 over 2 plus negative 1 times 4 minus x squared to the negative 1/2. I'm going to take out a common factor here. My common factor here is 4 minus x squared to the minus 3 over 2. When I do that, I'm left with minus x squared and minus 4 minus x squared in the bracket here. I'm going to collect like terms, so minus x squared minus minus x squared is plus x squared, so that goes away. I'm only left with negative 4 here in this bracket, so all of this here becomes negative 4 on the top. And I'm going to move everything from here to the denominator. So that becomes 4 minus x squared cubed square rooted. And you're done. So like I said, today's note isn't very long, but if you can take the first derivative, you can take the second derivative. I'm going to tell you that the biggest mistake that students make is mixing up the type of rule that they have to use, or not recognizing what rule it is that they have to use, or that the rule from the first derivative to the second derivative is different. So question number 7 is a perfect example of where students will start to make mistakes, because to take the first derivative, I use the chain rule, and to take the second derivative, I use the product rule and the chain rule. So definitely more involved. So keep that in mind as you tackle the homework. Thanks.